I know that he was in the army, probably, in Austrian army, and somehow, you know, but we never got into that. It's pretty interesting. On one side of my mom's side is different than the other side, because let's see, my mom's side was a lot of relative that I had to. On my father's side, I only saw them, maybe her mom only maybe once or twice. I didn't see it too many times.
So you didn't have a big relationship with your grandparents?
No, not really, no.
That you would remember?
My mom's mom, I remember when I used to go visit in that village, that she would have bring some fruits, and you know how there was an old lady dressed like she was a typical old lady, Slovene, and she was very happy when she saw us coming, grandkids, and she would maybe give us some, I don't remember, the fruits that grow over there. She was she was kind of nice.
And what village was that then that you were?
Gaberia, it's called. Yeah, it's a good question there. To my knowledge, when they got married, we moved to Trieste. I think he was lucky to find a job in a refinery, and that was his bread and butter. Well, he was in the Austrian army.
Right. But once he got out of the army and got married, then he worked like in a factory and. Right. They moved to Trieste, and that's where we settled in. So do you remember him like going to work and coming home?
Yeah. I remember when. My God, you don't forget. We had those cold days in Trieste. They know for Labora. It's windy, like Chicago over here. And I remember. They used to put paper under the jacket when it was windy and cold. Was a very bitter cold. I remember putting paper under the jacket and dress, and the way he was going to work. Well, we were 7 children, but I know that one passed away before. They was a little older than Judita would be.
When the child was a baby?
Yeah, I think they got somehow. There were some people in Gaber here, in that village. One lady that she told me that she remembered that thing, to have seen it. My mom with a little baby, and she remembered that she was doing meow meow like with a, and that was the that was a little baby that I think he choked. After that, our 7 kids, we were okay.
So where are you in the order of all the kids? So the oldest would be?
My sister Judita, then was Angelo, and then was me, and Pino, Rosetta, and Mariuccia.
Who would you say you were the closest to of growing up? Or not, or were you closer to your friends and you didn't really play so much with your siblings?
Well, I was, I don't know how to say, but to my mom, I was almost the, I would brag to say that I was the number 1, but I had a very good relation with my mom. Almost like a consulting. I mean, we were like same family, but we were very different one or the other one. And for some reason, I was like choosing. My mom, she would consult me for how to do it. I don't know. My brother Angelo, he was more like he has his character. I don't know. It's pretty hard to describe. And my sister, she was older, but I had a good relation. I can remember, I mean, my mom, she was like something sacred. You always, go see your mom like the magic word and everything. And I remember that she had a culture that was very typical Slovene and very proud of herself and her culture. And I remember that my mom, she was not very happy when Judita, she would go out. She was 17 years old, 18, you know, girls go out and go dance. And that was a sad part that I had to do to, how you say,
you had to be a chaperone?
Chaperone, yeah. And I was following my sister, you know. The culture was ignorant, not in a way that they were stupid or something, but the culture was like this. Don't go out, the girls. And my mom, she was very, you know, make sure that she don't get into bad adventure. I remember following, and even yet today, my sister, sometimes she say, I remember you were following me, and for that, like saying, you know, you could have, what can I say? I was small and I was not the smartest man in the world, and I thought it was a good service to my culture and to my mom, but yeah, it was.
She didn't appreciate it as much as you.
She didn't appreciate it too much at all.
Yeah.
My mom, she had a good quality as a mom and everything, but I think the culture that we were brought up, it was a little bit too heavy.
Very strict.
Very strict.
Would you say she was strict more because of her culture, or was it more religion, like being Catholic and what the church was saying?
Maybe both.
So being Catholic played a big part in your upbringing.
Oh,
I mean, you went to church and.
Oh yeah.
Confession, and you kind of.
Yeah, those days there was a little different things.
It played a big role in growing up.
But I mean, I remember when my sister, I was sleeping, and it would have been 10 o'clock when my sister Judita, she would come home, and you know those old keys, the old door you can picture, and when I hear, you know, knocking the door, I knew it was a problem. My mom, she would go down and quiet for 1 minute, then you hear. She was tough, you know. With my sister, like something, you were not supposed to come out at 10 o'clock. Home, you know, where you been and what's the idea? That was, I feel a little guilty today about, you know, that she took an unfair treatment, like you would say, you know.
So your mom was more the disciplinarian more than your father.
Oh yeah.
So your father, when your sister was going out, he didn't care if you followed or not.
My father, he was not involved that
he
much.
Turned it over to your
mom. He had a bet. So once in a while, I got good discipline from him too. But mom was more strictly to decide what you deserve, what kind of
punishment.
Punishment, yeah. When we lived over there, when I was 5 years old, we moved there because mom and dad, they wanted to be near church and schools, and dad was very close to church and school. So that was the idea that they chose. Before that, we had a small apartment, and we had water. I'm not ashamed to say, but we had water in the previous apartment. We had water and gas and the utility. And when we moved to Cervola, it was a big step for us. I must have been 5 years old at that time, and I remember where the place where we lived was a kind of 1 bedroom and 1 kitchen, and the bathroom was outside and was not even private for us. Can you imagine? In other words, that I described the lowest step of my existence, to live in that house. We were sleeping, and that's true, we were in 1 room sleeping 9 people. My mom, my dad, and 7 children. And that, That was a little rough.
Was there running water there?
No, that's I was.
So you had to bring.
Yeah, you remember my mom still with those things. She would go get water at the fountain, and fire. We had to use coal or wood.
So you lived there from the time you were 5 till
when I went to the States. Till when I was 20 years old.
So that was your childhood home.
Well, yeah, right.
Did you feel like you had less than the other kids in school? Did you feel that you were poor?
Yes.
You felt that you were poor.
Well, I mean, in general, the people live more or less in poor standard. But with 7, we were a numerous family, children, and it was a rough time.
So you felt the hardship, even as a child. You felt that you were living a hard life.
Yes, I would say. Well, thanks God. Like my mom, she was. The situation was very rough, but my mom still was able to manage the situation very smartly. I think one good quality God gave her to know how to deal with a problem. She was my barber. She was my tailor. She'd do shoes and cut the clothes. And I mean, it's nothing to say. We were poor with the poor people. I mean, I remember some neighbor, they would give us like the fruit store, and across the street they would bring some fruits. Sometimes they were not perfectly, and they would give, or some neighbor, they would give us some clothes. Old shirt, my mom, she would have just cut in pieces and made some clothes for us. But she was a very smart lady, as that goes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, somehow I knew that was something far away. I always thought about that. And I think when I was in third grade, I flunked, by the way, and I got to know one guy that his name was Sergio Kersicla. He was a little genius with a pencil. He gave me an aspiration to do something with your own hands. And he was magic. I don't know, I always, even when I go back sometime to my hometown, I look at him and say, you know, if I do a little painting today and a little art, and I have to say thank you because of you.
So it was because you saw somebody else sketching with a pencil in third grade, and you said, wow, I want to do that.
Right.
So
that's how we kind of started on and off, very little. And my father, naturally, when we was to go see some relative, he would say, hey, how smart he was. He can draw pretty good. So something motivated me to do that. But I never worked as an art before. Never to do like that. It was just when we moved to Canada that Pino, my brother, he bought me some tubes of paint. And I started, he was doing actually better than I do. He was a good painter. And I started to move a little bit with the colors, and that's how it started when we were in Canada.
Because your brother was painting.
Yeah, I brought this ID and...
But you had no formal training. You kind of watched what your brother was doing?
Right. And... No formal training, but... I just love to practice, to do things like that, and I like geography. Maybe because I always thought, I mean, since I was small, when we used to go to the beach, I see the horizon. I say, it's got to be another it's got to be better than here. And that's how the whole thing started for me to move.
So you were interested in geography, but
geography and calligraphy. Yeah, that was the two main things. I used to almost hate math and other subjects, but calligraphy was something to me, using my hand and stuff like that. And geography maybe was tied with my dreams about going somewhere, because I always thought, it's got to be a better place. It's got to be, and that's what, with the time, materialized.
School was not something you had a very big interest in, and you finished up until what grade?
Well, I flunked another time again, and once when I changed school, I lost another year, but I didn't. I got to the 8th grade. Okay. And then was the war, and was pretty hard to get things do in the wartime.
Were the schools? The schools were still going on during the war.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But you just stopped going. Right. And your mother was okay with that. She didn't say, "Oh no, you keep going. School's important."
No.
Because you were more helpful to her, probably doing other things, getting food and.
Right. I was the one that in my family I don't know, when the war, during the war, that was pretty rough to get around. And I was the one that I got like a gift from my uncle, a bicycle. I must have been maybe 11 years old. And that bike, to me, was almost a mean of providing a lot of stuff, because I had a pretty good way of finding out where and how to get the food. And they were happy that I was not even able to get off the bike. That's how small I was. I need a sidewalk to get on. And I started to, even at that time, to do some kind of business, going maybe 20 miles in one place to buy peas and stuff like that when it was a season, or go buy fish, or other place milk. And I was pretty good at that stuff. I can tell you a little story about me and my brother Angelo. When we were very young, I must have been maybe 10, 12, I don't remember exactly. And me and my brother Angelo, he decided after the Mass to take the bike and drive for about 20 miles, roughly, maybe a little more, to go to my mom's village. And so we got in the bike, two on one bike. I was sitting in the front, put the jacket in the front, and then like kids, stupid kids, we don't think twice what we were doing. And while we were driving about halfway, you know how you put the jacket in front of the
handlebar.
It kind of started to go down slowly. We go down the hill pretty fast, and that thing got stuck on a wheel. And I tell you, we flew on one side and the bike on the other side. That was a good souvenir that I would never forget. You can see my brother Angelo. It took about, I don't know how long, but it was not easy to take the jacket off. But somehow we didn't get hurt, so we got to this village, which is 20 miles away from Trieste. That was a habit or little culture. When you go visit the uncle in those days, the situation was like that. They would give you little potatoes and stuff like that. So you can, my aunt, she says, since you're over here, take some few potatoes home. We had a bag. And my brother, he was trying to say, I'm not going to drive back home now, because it was getting late and he was a little bit tired, but I didn't want to stay there. So he had to drive back. We got back home in the evening. So my mom, she was wondering what in the world went the whole day, and there we came late, but this is one little adventure. Since we are at the subject of adventure, I'd like to tell you another thing that my sister, Judita, she don't like for me to mention again, but it's a fact. We were going after the church, one time after the Mass, Judita found 10 lire, 10 liras. In those days, 10 liras was almost like a day's work. And I'm never going to forget that. She just said, it was something magic for us to have money like this, from nowhere like this, and the taste was great.
So it was on the floor? Just
it was, yeah, she found
ground.
Just on the floor, outside the church. And she said, what are we going to do with this money? Well, you know, you never have money, you never want to. So I remember she bought a little dolly for her, a little plastic gun for me, and I don't know, some newspaper, some magazine, but we were happy like in a world. I mean, that was something magic. And she started to say one thing, just make sure that when you go home, don't say a word to mommy about this thing here. But she repeats so many times, don't ever say to mom
that we found
the thing here, because for one thing, it was not very nice for the religious people to go and do that. But anyway, she told me so many times that don't say nothing to mom, that when I got home, the first thing I said to mom, I said, we didn't buy nothing, no candy, no food. I said, we didn't buy anything, nothing. And my mom started to look at us like something was going cookie. She was not. She started to, and you can see my sister, she was shrinking. I mean, I must have been 8 years old. Apparently I was not very smart. But anyway, slowly she got to find out what happened, and she was not proud of us to be a good children to do that thing. But then, after that, we took a little beating, because that we deserve it. We did something stupid that I'm never going to forget. Well, anyway, just talking about little adventure. For some reason, we never discussed things of that nature. As a matter of fact, strange as it could be, or it is, when I left, I didn't even say anything. But I assumed that maybe my friend Remigio, he would tell her mom, but it was a little dumb for me to behave like that. And she didn't know when I went to the merchant ship where I used to work, and that we're going to leave. Maybe I should tell you from the beginning. Right after the war, this is important to notice, because in 1945, when the war was over, the same year they started to come those Liberty ships, those American ships. They bring a lot of food and cargo.
To Trieste.
Yeah, and we were, somehow I was able to go, while the ship was waiting in the
port.
To get in the port, I was able, with a friend of mine, go on the ship, and we had just a little bit of money, but we would have go on a ship to buy some stuff, like American cigarettes or stuff like that. That's how it began my switch in life. This is how I got to, I mean, I couldn't speak a word of English. I remember we got aboard the ship, and after so many years, you know, the food was scarce, everything was scarce. Go in those merchant ship, and they had just about, you name it, the food, the white bread and everything, and we just, we couldn't speak English, but this is how it started. I got in touch with, they took us a little sympathy with the sailors, you know, they had a lot of everything, and talked to us. It was a little adventure, and the day after they went in port, I said, I'm not going to lose this occasion. in 45, we were able somehow, we were waiting at in the harbor, at the gate, when the people go in and out, and we used to ask every American, you in Clara Barton ship? You know, that's all I know. Say, no. Well, somehow I knew the name of the ship, and I knew that the name of this guy, Alex. He was a cook on the ship. This is the guy that we start something.